In order to triumph, you will need to overcome the painful hurdles along the way. Only through failure will you find success.
Dale, are you practicing for a TED Talk? You predicting my future? What is this?
Listen, Henry, first of all, thank you. The fact that you thought that I was going to be practicing for a TED Talk, no one has ever said that to me. So I just wanted to kind of, gloat in that a little bit. But actually, I'm foreshadowing this week's episode where we talk about everything Souls games and dive into the new Elden Ring.
Oh my gosh, what an exciting topic for this week's episode of Easy Mode. That's your host, Dale, who praises the sun and loves to have fun.
And that's Henry K. If the boss doesn't kill you, his side eye will.
That's true. And then you'll have to come fight me over and over again until you defeat me.
Yeah, honestly, I will. It's a little bit of a kind of segue. Your side eye is quite cold.
I get that a lot. Someone said I was scary last week, and I was like, good. Sorry to my coworkers.
Next boss, a game will be created, and you'll be the final boss. Side eye Henry.
I'm the final boss of office management.
So Henry, how's your week been? What games have you been playing? Talk to me.
Oh my God, my week's been hectic. I'm so burnt out, but I'm so glad to be doing this episode. It brings me a lot of joy. Work's been exhausting, life's been exhausting, but we're here and we're doing this, and it's a lot of fun. I have been gaming a lot this week too. Probably another contributing factor to my exhaustion. But I actually have been playing Elden Ring, which is what we're talking about this week. So I'm excited to get into that. What have you been having going on?
Having for dinner?
For dinner. This is now an eating podcast.
So I will agree with you in the fact that I too had a very stressful week, but looking forward every week to these weekly podcasts that we film together. It's always the highlight of my week. So thank you for, bringing some friggin' positivity in my life and not a revenue test and then yell at me, but that's besides the point. I wanted to dive into a game that I absolutely love. It's called Enter the Gungeon. It's a bullet hell roguelike. Do you play roguelikes or any kind of bullet hell, anything like that?
I know what game you're talking about, and I've actually always wanted to play Enter the Gungeon, but I love a roguelike.
It is co-op too, and oh my God, it's one of those games similar to this where if you die, start from the very beginning. So it's not like a soul game, but you start right there at the beginning. I'm like, oh my God, how many times have I died? I have beaten the past of all the 4 main characters, so I will say that. That game is where I get sweaty, and if you're looking at me right now in the YouTube video, sweat.
I will say
I gotta have a band on.
You love a challenge. You love when someone says you can't, someone or a video game says you can't do something, you're like, fuck that. Can I say that on this show? You are beep that. You will take that challenge head on until you beat it.
We've sworn every week.
I don't remember. It's just the intro. It's a fresh start.
I love it. No, but you're actually right. And I think that competitiveness comes from when my brother and I would play DDR because I always had to win. And I've actually never lost. So flex again.
Take that, Dale's brother.
Take that.
We're dragging you on this podcast right now.
I do want to immediately dive into this because I have seen your little Discord settings say, Elden Ring, do not disturb. Elden Ring, do not disturb. And as somebody who's actually never played, I want to hear your experience and kind of talk about other people's experiences, talk about the game, the background, all these Souls games. I just want to jump into it. What do you think about that?
Let's praise the sun and jump right in, Dale. That's a reference to the game.
Sun.
Because I'm sure you don't know. But let's jump right in.
That's a reference to the game? Oh, I just learned. Wow. So Henry, have you heard of the company FromSoftware?
Duh.
Well, to anyone who's listening, if you've never heard about it, let me just read you a little blurb that I have prepared for all of you. Wow. So FromSoftware is a Japanese video game development company. It was founded in November 1986. The company is best known for their Armored Core and Souls series, including the related games Bloodborne, Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, and the very popular game right now, Elden Ring, which, Henry, you are playing right now, and I want to hear all about your experience later on. But Dark Souls 3 was their best-selling series, and it has sold over 27 million copies, which, okay, crazy, because when I was, reading this, I'm like, wait a second. They did all that? I, for whatever reason, did not think that this company had done all of those games.
I know, it's
so
a
uneducated.
lot.
It's a lot.
Yes. From my experience, FromSoftware, I only ever knew Dark Souls really was the defining point in their, game development career, or... But their career is actually so long. Since 1986. It's been a long time. But they sort of put Dark Souls and this sort of new Souls style genre of games on the map, and that's been very exciting. What an incredible accomplishment for them. Their games that they're most popular for are very contrasting, and I think it's so funny. A lot of the games are that sort of RPG, Dark Souls vein, so it's sort of like exploratory RPG adventure, often first person, sometimes third person game. But then their most successful series, which you mentioned, Dale, was Armored Core, and that was sort of the opposite in that it wasn't like Kingdom Quest sort of style, and this was like a mecha robot style game. So very, very contrasting, but both very successful for the industry, for FromSoftware. But I thought it was cool how different those games are. It's very, very different style.
Yeah, totally different. And I can tell you right now, I have not played any of the games that I have talked about. To be honest with you, I am not a very strong gamer. I think it's very evident that I am not a professional gamer, despite the fact that I may appear to be super high in rank. I tend to struggle sometimes, even on the tutorial. So I'm not so sure these games would really be good for me.
Listen, I died twice in the tutorial of Elden Ring to an enemy. I actually died a few times before that because I couldn't remember the controls. And I couldn't get the controls right. My fingers were pressing the wrong buttons. And I threw myself off a cliff twice.
I've seen so many videos of people doing that online. It's like you get so almost to the very peak and then you fall. You got to start from the beginning.
Yeah,
crazy.
Like one mistake can really cost you your life, much like in real life. But it happens a lot more often in Souls games. So like I mentioned, Dale, Souls games and Souls style games are like a genre that's recently taken that name, inspired by the Dark Souls, Blood Souls, Elden Ring series. Now this whole community of games that FromSoftware put on the map. So we have a lot of new games coming that are sort of being categorized under that, but the Souls game style games have a long, long history. Whether it's Monster Hunter is a big inspiration for Souls style games, a few other major games that we heard of, but the history of Souls style games and how these games work and function can be traced back to like 1978. So the games are long, long inspired from their predecessors, much as a lot of things are. It just has been refined and have now hit a point of popularity and success where Dark Souls is sort of taking the credit, but I'm sure FromSoftware knows that has come way before them, and that style and that genre and those mechanics have always been there.
That's kind of how they made their whole identity and their brand.
Yes.
Which is super cool. It's really cool that like a company has really stuck to their like core mission for every single game. Like they are just known for something and they just do it. And I think that's actually really cool because I mean, it works, right?
Yeah.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Continue.
So what Souls-like games, they all generally have in common are they're very difficult. They're high-risk combat. So all the challenges, all the enemies are going to be hard, difficult. There's not going to be a lot of saving features, pausing features, and then the only reward, the way to like gain reward is to actually defeat your enemies, and that sort of is the payoff, the risk. That is the big mechanic of the feature. Also, there's a lot of upgrading. There's some level of grinding, and then of course things like health and any resource replenishment is like rare and hard to come by. So the stakes are high in any Souls-like games, and those sort of things can be applied to a lot of different games, and they have been. There's actually a few popular games already that take Souls-like elements, and maybe we don't notice it, we don't think about it, but there are quite a few.
Oh.
Yeah, some of them are The Witcher 2 and 3. That's a very, very large franchise that does borrow a lot of those elements. Shovel Knight, Destiny, which is a big grinding series. Hollow Knight, the 2017 release of Hollow Knight.
I love that game. I didn't know that was in the category. Okay, I guess I have played games.
Well, maybe you're an expert and professional of Souls games, Dale.
I love Hollow Knight. I'm actually pretty good at it. Continue.
Well, there you go. But I mean, would you say that game is like high risk, high reward? That sort of challenge?
The first time I did start playing it, I was like, I'm surprised this game is not as easy as I thought because it's so cute, right?
Yes.
And then I'm just playing it. Why am I dying? What do you mean I can't say? What do you mean I got to start from where I was? Like, I was not expecting all of this. So.
Yes, and Hollow Knight's example, there's a few other games that I don't remember off the top of my head right now that are taking that art form variation to a Souls-like game, which is kind of fun. It's sort of, it presents as cute, inviting, like the art is very warm and friendly, but then the challenge is difficult, and you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
And then another one is also a very popular game, God of War. There's a lot of those elements that are Souls-like combined into a lot of these games that we are playing and are getting more and more popular today. Gamers are growing up, and I think a lot of gamers are wanting a challenge. So as we mentioned, like that sort of gaming age extension is getting bigger and bigger. We want things that are harder and harder. And I think
maybe this is Sorry, continue.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, maybe this is the new category of like sweaty gamers. Because we always talk about sweaty gamers as just FPS. What if it's actually these games? This is where sweaty gaming actually comes into play. Because one false move, one misstep, and oh my God, you're off the cliff with Henry.
Yes.
That's what that is there. And, wow, okay.
And then like even going on difficulty, you know, people are wanting difficulty in a lot of our like youth franchises. I would say the most recent being Pokemon. Everyone wants it to be more difficult. Everyone wants it to be more challenging, more grinding, and even like maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. I haven't played it, so like I don't have enough expertise in the game. But Pokemon Arceus does have that sort of like, you know, your trainer can sort of die when hunting for Pokemon or trying to get like the most difficult one, the alpha one. There's a lot of grinding of like capturing them for reward. There's sort of that like risk payoff in there. So is Pokemon Arceus kind of Souls like? I don't know. Let us know what you think.
Yeah, maybe. I kind of agree with that sentiment of making some games a little bit more challenging. You ever just like get a game and it's like you breeze through it and you're like, wow, that was it. Like I almost wish it was a little bit longer of an experience.
Yeah.
But with these type of games, so just like coming back to the game that I have played so I can talk about it. When I was playing Hollow Knight, because I kept dying so much and you have to like go back and find your ghost, like your spirit, I felt so accomplished after I would like beat something that was just causing me so much like, why can't I pass? Why can't I pass? So I like that, like overcoming these hardships. However, I wouldn't say Hollow Knight is as difficult as like Elden Ring or Dark Souls. I think it's like a good intro, especially because of how cute the music and everything. So maybe I'll try it out and see how much I like dying over and over again.
I mean, that element you described of having to go back and get your soul, that's the Souls game element. I'm sure that is in the game besides the difficulties. That is, you find that in Dark Souls, you find that Elden Ring, Bloodborne. When you die, like your currency or whatever it is stays there, so you have to go back and get it. Which is a pain because that means you died at a difficult spot, so you have to face it again.
You have to face it again, but this time you got less. It's a lot. So Henry, we know that Elden Ring is super popular right now, and I figured we could talk about it a little bit. Miyazaki is a Japanese video game director, designer, writer, and the executive of FromSoftware.
Woo!
So I was reading about some interviews with him because you know how the game is super popular.
Yeah.
He stated in an interview that all of the FromSoftware the games, they must always serve the player experience. The story must always serve the player experience. And so with this new game, Elden Ring, he actually collaborated with George R.R. Martin. And it turns out that Martin was a huge fan of the games, which I was like, wait, hold on a second. Don't you have to finish the Game of Thrones series?
That's what everyone was saying on Twitter. They're like, sir, that's great that you did this, but please get back and writing the book.
Yeah, like, I'm sorry, where's that?
The most distracted man in the world.
So, basically, Martin, he wrote the game's backstory. He provided text about the setting, the characters, and the mythology. Like, that's so cool. And what's even cooler is that when they were meeting, he thought that the language barrier would be difficult because he's a lot older than George. But it turns out that over time, as they were meeting in hotels and each other's places, they actually established a friendship. And it's like,
that's very sweet.
I love that. That's really cool.
I mean, gaming brings people together, storytelling brings people together, especially like the stories that we get in Elden Ring or the Souls games. They're brought to us very differently, but they're very rich and deep, which I enjoy.
I like that too.
Yeah, so
I'd like to get more into it.
The work, this game has become a lot of success and a lot of people really, really praising it. There are some critiques, of course, and we'll get to those at the end of the episode, but a lot of people praising it, and it has to do a lot with how many years were put into this game. Development began in early 2017, which that's some time back now, and they were developing that along Sekiro Shadows Die Twice.
Wow.
Yes, so Elden Ring has a lot of common traits with a lot of other Soul games. You get to make your own character, as opposed to a fixed protagonist, as you know, different ways to make a main character. If you haven't listened to episode 1.
Episode 1, yeah.
Plugging in our own show here. And they felt like Elden Ring was like the natural evolution of what came after like Dark Souls 3 for like the franchise or the gaming style for the company, as opposed to like the more linear or people say corridor aspects of Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3. Elden Ring is a completely open world game with a new mechanics, such horseback riding, which everyone loves. Who doesn't like riding a horse? Very Breath of the Wild style horse riding everywhere.
This is a little bit, before you finish what you're going to say, I want to ask you, what was the first game you played in which you had to ride a horse?
Ocarina. Legends of Zelda Ocarina.
Me too.
Yeah.
Ocarina of Time, the Epona. Okay, we had the same memory.
It was the best song.
I love it.
It was the best song. But yes, this is a very open world game. And it does stray from the Soul series because it doesn't have like populated towns or like big centers where you converse with a lot of NPCs. This is very, very large. And when I tell you this game is large, it's wildly large. I think it's one of the biggest games I've ever seen or played. Like, I almost can't wrap my head around it. And I mean, I've done so little, but that's just what I'm seeing on social media. It's wildly large.
I will say that my friends, sorry, I will say that though, not low. My friends who have been playing Elden Ring, and I see their tweets, they love the open world aspect of it. And they love how it's just like, you can do whatever. It's all about the exploration. But they also wish that more games would go in towards this more like open world kind of like dynamic, which I think is kind of cool because I find open world to be quite daunting because I am always like, wait, you mean limitless? Like I could just do whatever. And I'm like, oh, okay. But there's a huge demand for it. Like as much as people are like, oh, like negatively about Elden Ring, there's tons of people who are like, hell yeah, this is the way that game should be going. Move towards this direction because we love it. So I love to see that.
I love an open world game. And Dale, I think you're touching on the exact point where I feel that Elden Ring's, oh, not just me, a lot of people feel Elden Ring is a lot more playable and accessible than the Soul series, is that element of exploration and that freedom to go around and do whatever you want. You do have that technically in those 1, 2, 3 Bloodborne Souls games. But the world is smaller, it's tighter, it's more compact. So you really, the places where you can grind, the places you can explore, it's a very limited area and it's a lot more difficult. So you're just facing those harder challenges over and over and over, as opposed to having that freedom of exploring and facing those challenges when you're ready or being able to see those challenges in the distance. And that's what sort of the FromSoftware determined would be like a great influence for the game and making them more accessible is that sort of they said like the design and the freedom to play how you wanted. And I think for the first time in the series, Elden Ring is becoming open to a lot more gamers like you and I and a lot more people. And they're able to be part of the franchise and the story and a part of the community. It is controversial and we'll touch on that later. But I think it's also fantastic that more people get to join. And I think FromSoftware did this very purposefully. And I'm excited for them because they knew their game was going to be great. So, I mean, the more people that play it, the more people that buy it. Basic capitalism, but also
it's good marketing too.
Great for the gaming community, I believe.
So to anyone who's listening right now and you're like, what is Elden Ring all about? Let me just tell you the backstory of it. The backstory of the game sees the vast lands ruled by Marika. Wait, hold up a second. What? No, let's start
one more time. Bring it back now, y'all.
Start it again. So the vast lands are ruled by Queen Marika. Marika, I apologize, girl. I got your name wrong. With various demigod servants, all loyal to her undisputed rule. However, the shattering of the Elden Ring threw the fantasy setting into chaos. And as the power-hungry demigods begin collecting the pieces in an attempt to take control of the land. So this is basically like modern-day politics. You know, everyone's just like fighting to secure everything. And you're that hero. You got to go get everything. Maybe it's not totally modern day, but, you know, there's a little bit of inspiration from that.
I got to tell you, I'm so glad you told me that because I think about like, you know, I'm almost at 20 hours in the game. I don't know, 10, somewhere between 10 and 20 hours in the game. Never heard of any of these people in this brief. I was like, the lands ruled where? I was like, the demigods.
The thing is, a lot of people who play this game, they don't even play for the story. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, some people want to just for the story. And I, like we said earlier, Miyakaze, his whole, like, even like all of FromSoftware, their whole thing is that the story drives the game. It has to be part of the experience. So that's what they kept in mind. But some people are like, nah, babes, I'm about to go and like speedrun or just like fight. So people play it their own way. And I really like how much they put into the story. Like the fact that they started work in this in 2017. That was 5 years ago. Yeah. That is crazy. That just shows how much like they, like the quality in which they put in like the work and also the product, you know, like it's not like, just like it's a year of work. Like, no, this is 5 years. And like the reception shows that the quality and time that they took in it's like paying off. It's so successful. And honestly, props to them.
It's true, Dale. I completely agree. The quality is out of this world. The storytelling, the character design, and in the open world setting, unlike any other game I've played so far, you do not feel that it's empty. Like, I have to watch out for something around every freaking corner because there probably will be something around every freaking corner. I don't feel like the landscape looks repetitive at all. I don't feel like the enemies are repetitive. Every encounter is a variant of some kind where the scenario is different and really makes you think. And and it's just beyond impressive. But I do have to say, the amount of hours. So I played Dark Souls 1, did not play 2 and 3 or Bloodborne. But I've spent more hours watching YouTube videos about the lore of 1, 2, 3, and Bloodborne than I have actually playing the games. Because, as you said, the lore is so rich. There was a great YouTuber. His name started with the V. I don't remember the exact channel. I'll link it in the episode. But he gave you the breakdown, deep dive into every boss, into every city area, like history. He's giving you history. He's giving you like what their family drama was, like their connections to every other character and past games, future games kind of thing. The lore is great. So I think if people who aren't like getting their like part of it in the lore, you're really missing out, because I loved it.
You know what's actually kind of cool, kind of tying into what you just said, video essays about games.
Love them.
In which like, because I miss a lot of the story, so I go back and I'm like, oh, that's what happened, you know? Because sometimes when you're focusing too much on like what you got to do and not like overall the story, I love them. I always, after I complete a game and I go, I'm like, what did I miss? And I missed a lot. So I too am like you, but I've not played any of the games, nor do I have 20 hours in Elden Ring. I don't even own it yet, but I do think
you would enjoy it. I think it would be a great game for you to stream, and I mean, it's a lot of fun. It's accessible, and you take it at your own pace. So really, screw everyone else.
Look at that.
I know.
Well, I think we have taken, a good deep dive into this. Let's take a quick 5 and then jump into, a little bit more controversy.
Ooh, I'm excited for this, Dale.
Henry, I want to ask you something. Do you think that games are really for everyone?
Controversial take. I think they should be.
Yeah, so the reason I ask this is because these games created by FromSoftware are actually not designed for everyone. Because the games, let me tell you this fun fact that I was like, squeeze. So Elden Ring was designed to reduce player stress without reducing enemy difficulty. I feel like that does the opposite for me, because I will just continually get more stressed, So yeah, the game is not for everybody. The games rely on patience, failure, and hard-earned precision. So these are the kind of games that you can't actually button mash. And then they also talk about like they're not accessible for like certain physical capabilities. Like the games require just like you need to be like the prime individual that the game was designed for. So that does not kind of sit super well with me and a lot of other people, because I think that game should be enjoyed by everyone. However, like it is their mission. So Miyazaki, he said that making difficult games is their identity.
Yep.
He sees death as a feature, not a bug. And it's not something that they want to abandon in the future, because it's like their identity. In this interview that I read by him, he just kept saying identity, identity. I feel like he might be having a bit of an identity crisis, but I kind of see where he's coming from. However, it is 2022. And I feel like we've come such a long ways in terms of making things more accessible for everybody, or like an experience that everyone can kind of come together with. I will say that he does feel apologetic for anybody who feels like there's too much to overcome in the games. But the main thing is that he wants as many players as possible to experience that joy that like you get from overcoming hardship. So like earlier when I was like, I've done this so many times and I feel so good after. Yeah, I feel good, but also I was suffering. So it's like, was it really good?
I totally get that.
There's one thing that I thought was actually kind of interesting. So I have not played Elden Ring, but tell me if you have seen this, Henry. So if you're connected to the internet, have you seen ghostly outlines of other players like occasionally flash on the screen?
Yeah, they have 2 different features. One is like a white figure of a character, like the outline of whatever character is. You'll see them doing something and you're like, oh, what's going on? Honestly, they just confuse me because I don't know what they're doing, because I'm just as lost. And then sometimes I think they're enemies and I start to panic because while you're fighting something, sometimes they'll appear next to you, or like, because it'll like recreate this other player having the same battle you were, but sometimes that animation will start while you're doing it and you're like, like you're like someone's rolling into me right now.
Scare. Yeah.
And then they have blood stains, which is a feature that lets you see that how other players died. It doesn't show the enemy, but it just kind of just shows the route. And when you see a lot of blood stains, you're like, oh, a lot of people are dying in this specific area. So
that's
it lets you
actually
kind of
so
see.
Cool.
And there is a great also communication method in the game where, I mean, unfortunately, it's a lot of memes and jokes half the time. Some very good jokes. I do enjoy them. But you can write messages on the floor for players to read. That either you can give warnings. You can be like, oh, there's a hidden message here. You could be like, look right. Usually the like community and like the verbiage behind those are very like vague because they want the players to have that same experience. So they're like careful on right, like they'll give, but that'll be it. They're not going to be like, oh, a giant boulder is about to roll out and like roll you down this hill and so you're going to die. But it'll be like, look right, like that's it. But then some people do like look left and they'll try to throw you off and something gets you from the right, which is so rude, but I get it. I understand.
What the reason I brought that up is because it's like suggesting that the hardships that you're facing are a shared experience. So it's like you're not really going through this alone. And I think it's really cool that the game has that in there.
Yes.
Those bloodstains that you talked about, a little bit concerning because I feel like I would be the one leading the bloodstains.
I am the bloodstains other people are saying. You see those 10 bloodstains, those were all me. And yes, it is just a very simple enemy, but I don't know how to use a sword, so what are we going to do?
I don't know anything. Again, one brain cell and two between us.
Two between us. So here's how I feel about that sentiment. I respect it. I respect the mission, and I like understand that sort of sentiment on wanting to overcome hardship. However, it is a very different perspective for a lot of people. A lot of people don't get to. It is a privilege to choose hardship in life, and that applies, I think, to gaming as well. If your life is like riddled with hardships that are difficult to overcome, and you can't escape, and you don't have the option to, sometimes you just want to enjoy video games, which you shouldn't have to choose it to be more difficult. However, I respect the mission and statement. At the end of the day, he's going to keep doing whatever he wants. I don't think FromSoftware is ever going to change that because they see the success and they see the value and the respect they get as a company, and I can respect that. However, I do enjoy the games. I do enjoy the story so much that I would love to share with other people who are like me. But I have so many friends who don't play the games, so I really don't have a lot of people to share that with. And then, like a lot of gaming communities right now, for varying different games, communities can be very toxic. They have a lot of great, amazing things. Like you said, you share in the defeat, you share in the accomplishment with those people. But in that same breath, when people are maybe frustrated or express critique based on something they can't accomplish, I'm not going to touch on accessibility or anything on that aspect right now. We're just going to talk about difficulty. But unfortunately, the Dark Souls community has this get good mentality. It is sort of like, you can't beat it, you got to get good, we're not going to help you, or it shouldn't be made easier for you, you're the problem. And that's really it. I mean, I hate to say it, but that is the sentiment. I've read it online when preparing research for this episode a million times. So you're
totally right, because when it was trending on Twitter, a lot of people did just say like get better, like just get good. I'm like, excuse.
That's been the thing since Dark Souls 1. That is the sentiment of the community. And so like any critique from an outside player, even just a voicing an opinion, sort of comes with that. You could read it in the comments. I watched a video about accessibility in Dark Souls, and there's a few sentiments I don't like, and some of those sentiments are a lot of people saying that if you can't play the game, then the game is not for you, so leave it. So this is an experience that's not made for you because you can't do it. So go watch someone play it, or don't even try.
Why are they so mean about it? Like, why can't they just be like, "Well, I don't care, continue." I feel like
and I think I think people like feeling accomplished and superior to other people and having done something that others can't. You see that across many games. For example, I play a lot of Valorant. If anyone's like, let's say you're a silver and the other one's gold, they're like, oh, you're silver or whatever. I mean, even though it's like one rank up, like, you know what I mean? Like people like feeling superior within a community of games because of what they have accomplished. And I think this Elden Ring community is no exception. They want to have those experiences, share them with the people who have had them. But if you haven't, and if you complain about it, then it's not for you. You either need to get good or move on. On Twitter, this game is freaking huge. And like we mentioned before, Elden Ring is one of the most accessible Souls games that has been made so far, which is a big reason why I decided to play it and start streaming it. And I have really enjoyed it. I do have to say, like I mentioned, I get to take my time. I get to level up, sort of grind my character out a little bit, explore and have fun. I'm in no rush to do anything.
You have been taking your time because I see how many hours you have in, and you have absolutely no progress. So
yeah, I've made actually I've done a few small things, but I haven't gone to the first boss. I'm just exploring, and there's so much to explore. And because it's not easy, exploring sections takes a little bit of time, even with simple enemies. But you do feel accomplished doing that.
Yeah. And honestly, you should just enjoy how you game. Like, I mean, the whole purpose of us even talking about, like, on the podcast is, do you enjoy what you do? And if you enjoy what you do, then I don't see an issue with kind of doing that. So,
so this is sort of like the take, Dale, that everyone is saying, like I mentioned before. And what people are saying is that if you can't, mainly because a lot of people, this game, Elden Ring is so accessible. Like I said, it's the most accessible game so far. But a lot of people, since they're new to it, coming in like for the first time, like I am actually playing it fully, they're sort of realizing the difficulty and sort of expressing the need or the voice or their desire for an easy mode. That's our podcast.
Oh, there we go. Listen to the podcast.
They're expressing their desire for an easy option because they do enjoy the game, but they just want to see more of it without. Maybe you don't have the time to grind it out. Maybe you don't have the time to really put in the hours or learn the mechanics for one boss. Yeah. You know, someone, I saw a tweet that was like, "Oh, it took me 5 hours to beat this boss because it took them so long to learn the mechanics." But it's just them doing that over and over. A lot of people don't have the time, so people are voicing their desire for an easy mode. But then, like I said, a lot of toxicity. Here are some of the responses people are saying to a lot of the new players' desire for an easy mode. People say it's disrespectful to the art form and mechanics of the developers. So, like we said, FromSoftware prides itself in that. So, to imply that they should, or wanting to add an easy mode is disrespectful to all the work that's been done. I feel iffy on that. Like I said, FromSoftware is never going to change. They're not going to do it. So, I don't see the harm in people expressing that opinion.
Yeah, and also, even though they said that it is like part of their whole mission and vision, like they said that, they never said that it was disrespectful. I feel like this, when people speak on behalf of somebody else, kind of take that with a little bit of a grain of salt because, you know, they might not see it as disrespectful. They probably won't agree, but they're not, I don't think they're going to see it as disrespectful. I think they would see it as like, okay, well, thank you for that feedback that we will not implement. Like that's how I would have seen that if I was on there.
I agree. I would say let FromSoftware speak on it. Because they might be conflicted on it. They may not. I mean, they're clear on how they stand, so they don't need to say anything else. Exactly. And you don't need to speak for them because they've said what they said and they're not going to say anything further. So let them do it. And you know what the most ironic thing to me, Dale, is about people who share that opinion is that those people who are like, oh, you got to get good, you got to whatever. The amount of people who share like, oh, here's how you find this S-tier weapon at the very beginning of the game, or here's how you build to optimize your character the most maximum way possible. Here's how you whatever, like here's where you find this amazing item that you need and will make it all easier. I'm like, if you're not doing these things by yourself and you're going to go find a YouTube tutorial on how to do it, you're doing an easy mode version of the game because you didn't do this. You didn't search for those items. You're just optimizing yourself at the beginning and working your way through the bosses. You did this. You're doing the easy mode version because you did not put in the work.
You're getting the help. Exactly.
You did not get good because you saw someone's tutorial online. You're doing the same thing other people are doing, like are asking for in a roundabout way.
Yeah.
It's so silly to me.
Yeah. Actually, that's really cool that you said that because you're right. Get good, but also I'm going to look up this hack.
Yeah.
Get good, but also, what? You didn't do that? Or they pretend to know, but they actually like looked up how to do it. Like, come on, please be nice to people. Why can't we be nice?
Yes. Well, everyone's like, oh, here's how the best place to spawn, to farm the runes, which is like you're leveling up currency and you're purchasing currency. There's like, here's the best places to farm it. If you're farming it and everyone's sharing how to farm it, you're not putting in the work to level up. You're finding an area that is, you're allowing to like abuse the system and like get like a lot of benefits for easy payoff. Like you're doing the easy mode version of the game. Hate to break it to you.
And then, no, you love breaking it to them. You love telling them.
I'm gonna tell you what's going on. You're the person you hated all along.
Look in the mirror.
Yes, and then finally, like a lot of these people, I've seen a few people like be like, "Oh, I don't pay attention to the lore. I'm just trying to power through. I just power through the game." I'm like, then you're being just as disrespectful to the people who wrote the game.
Yeah, how is
and put
that
in the
not...
work. Like that's just an important part of the game. If not, they're all important parts of the things that come and make one game a whole, enriching, amazing journey. And you're not paying any attention to the lore. Yeah. Like you're being disrespectful as well.
Well, air quotations to all the listeners. There was air quotations.
I'm very passionate about this. I've spent a lot of time reading people's takes on Twitter, and I just find them very frustrating.
I actually really like that you have put in so much like thought, and also not only even talking about what you've seen, but how you interpret that, or how you feel about it, because again, like I've never played any of this, but I have seen like some backlash on Twitter. And like just researching about the company and such, you know, they did say that their games are not for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really interesting to me, because when I think of like, should games be like for everybody? Yeah, I think everyone should be able to enjoy something. So I don't like these whole gatekeepers. You know what? Let me open my own gate. Stop standing there. You're not a guard, okay?
Yeah.
It's 2022. I've said that so many times, like today in this episode, but like, let's think about it.
Well, and this is why I'm so passionate about it too, and I think this is what really gets me going about this. Like Valorant and Elden Ring, so Valorant, for example, is a game where a lot of people who didn't play FPSs, a lot of like queer people, women, a lot of people, that game sort of was an open door for them to join and start learning how to play them and doing them, and you know, they become a presence in the community where it's unfortunately the target of a lot of hate, but they're also taking their own space. And Valorant is supportive of that, especially with everything they do with women's esports. But like a lot of new players have come into a genre and taking the space and taking that for themselves and establishing themselves in that community. That is always difficult at first. And there's going to be a lot of work to be done within that community. But it's going to have to get there because these people love the game. I love the game. As terrible as it is sometimes, I do love it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's happening with Elden Ring. And the funny part is FromSoftware is like, oh, we don't make games that aren't for everyone. I'm like, then why is Elden Ring more accessible than all your other games before it? Like, why is it easier besides the bosses? You know what I mean? Why are you reducing stress if this is your mission?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't obviously to sell games, but also like I personally try to push as many people as I can to play Elden Ring because I want them to like sort of share and experience the joy that is Souls games. And I don't want that just to be for certain people. I want it to be for as many people as possible. Like my friends, I want them to have amazing experiences with this game. So like, I'm like, listen, it is the easiest one. So this is the time to learn. It is still at times not easy, but you have freedom to do whatever you want. So if you are a player who could just enjoy exploring and having a fun time, even though there's difficult spots, come for this one. This is the one for you.
Also, if no one else is playing, then you're just like by yourself looking at online forums. So let's have Henry in our
And it does have co-op, so like play with your friends.
Play with your friends.
Now, Dale, Elden Ring does. This is a fact. This is a non-arguable point of this section of the podcast. Is that Elden Ring lacks an extreme amount, in my opinion, of accessibility options. So this isn't about getting good. This is about how am I going to get good if I don't have colorblind mode. They don't have the options to adjust font size. They don't have enough varying lighting, gamma adjustments. And there's a few other options that they're missing regarding accessibility. I believe his last name was Sayer. I don't remember the name, but if you look it up on Twitter or look up Elden Ring and accessibility on YouTube, someone made an hour-long video about that, where they try to separate difficulty and accessibility. And I believe colorblind settings, font size settings, those things are very, very
that should be mandatory for every game because, you know, I have some friends who are colorblind and they can't play games with me because it's like they just can't, like certain things like prevent them from like progressing. But why is this still in it? Like, how can you say the game is more accessible and then forget like these main things? Like, I feel like this should be a basis for having stuff, you know?
This one is a fact for me where I think they do need to add these things because it doesn't change it. Doesn't change difficulty.
For anybody.
This isn't about difficulty. They're not making the game easier. They literally, like, you either can't see, like, it's not playable. That's different than, like, I can't beat it. It's just not playable.
No, I totally get that. Wow. I didn't know. This was a very interesting section.
I know.
Didn't know about a lot of those things.
I think this is a very different episode to us because we're diving into a very live topic. These conversations are still ongoing. They're very fresh and new. And this game is very new. So it's going to be exciting to see how things go. But I do love the game. I encourage everyone to try it because I don't think just a certain type of gamer should get to play it and enjoy it and own that for themselves. I think we all should. And if we just sort of reframe or ask, I had to reframe my mindset on Souls games. I was like, this isn't just hard. I was like, it's easy. So I just try to reframe it. I'm like, I can learn. There's no reason why this is inaccessible for me.
Yeah, there's no race. There's no race to do all of this stuff.
Yeah, if I can do it, anyone else can do it. Like that's my like main takeaway for people. I'm not that great of a gamer, but I'm having a blast, and I think everyone should get too. It's very fun.
Yeah, and what is kind of cool about this is because it's still so new and super like trending and popular. when this episode comes out, you guys can let us know how you think, how you feel, because you probably have experienced it. I mean, I haven't yet, but I'd love to hear some like real-time reactions. Did you agree with us? Do you think we might be wrong on some things? I mean, it's good to have open discussions as long as you do not gatekeep. I will not see you standing at my gate.
Yeah, that's what, get in there and take this game for yourself. It doesn't just belong to certain people. It belongs to everyone.
Exactly. Yeah. I think I should try it. I might actually buy it.
I actually think you wouldn't be, like, I think you would be good at it and it would be very entertaining. And here's the thing, if you never beat a boss, who cares? You're playing the game. But here's the thing, I think you will eventually, everyone eventually gets to do it because you eventually learn. Everyone learns. But it's a blast. Otherwise, the game's freaking nuts. It's freaking nuts. That's all I can say. It's a wild, silly, stupid time. Ultimately, Elden Ring and Dale is a great example of an amazing game that can cause a lot of excitement, drama, conversation in the gaming community. And I think most importantly, it highlights voices of gamers of every kind. And that is what this podcast is all about. That's why we do it. To get our voices in there.
Not even our voices, but like the voices of people who may not even be heard. You know, like we did talk about some perspectives. And you talked about some tweets, you know, and concerns that maybe people didn't even think about. So I love that. I love you too. And this was a fun episode. If anything, it's shown me that like, you're right. I think I would really like it because I loved Hollow Knight and I loved God of War. And if that kind of similar mechanic of like kind of, you know, working through it and getting over it, I think I'd actually enjoy that. I might go a little bit insane. Like, you know, the whole thing about, you know, we made the game to reduce stress, but we didn't reduce the difficulty of the bosses. That's going to cause me a little bit more stress. But other than that, I think I'll try it out.
Can I tell you that this game is less stressful to me than Stardew Valley?
Oh, well, and I know that you and I are insane.
Because we are insane, so you may like it. But I was like, oh, I'm going to relax and play Dark Souls. So, like, I'm just wandering a field, like, backstabbing these ugly guys. And, like, and I'm no rush. And I'm like, oh, what can I buy from this man?
There's no time. There's no clock that's, like, you know, going down. You don't have to optimize. You don't have to do anything.
No, I find...
To anyone who's listening right now, if you're about to tell us that Stardew Valley can be relaxing, I don't want to hear it because you and I are not the same person.
I don't know that
You can just take your time. I don't know what that is. I don't know what taking my time is, okay?
But thanks for everyone for joining us this week for a very fun episode. I loved it. I've loved spending time with you talking about it, Dale. You're always so insightful, smart, beautiful. Hair looks great.
Much love for you.
Your eyes are so blue. Your eyeliner is so perfect. And when I look into your eye, I'm just kidding. Thanks for everyone.
I need to maybe find a new co-host after that.
I think you should call HR.
We are HR.
Oh no, what a disaster. We'll be back next week with another episode. But thanks for hanging out, everyone. We appreciate your time.
We love you.
Love you so much.
Bye.